What's happening, guys? This is Nagpal for iGyaan, and today we're going to be doing a comparison between the new Micromax Canvas Night and the Gionee S5.5 or the Gionee Elife S5.5. Both of these devices are available in the market for roughly around the 20,000 price bracket. Micromax Canvas Night is cheaper at 19,900 rupees in the market, whereas the Gionee S5.5 is priced at about 22,000 in the retail market. So let's go ahead and talk about these devices. I'm going to be doing a comparison in 4 levels. So we're going to be talking about design and build quality. Then we're going to be talking about hardware, performance, and end of day usability. And then I'm going to be concluding this review. So hopefully, if you guys are deciding between these two devices, you can actually make a final decision. If we talk about design, both of these devices are basically based on a principle that you have a metal bezel along with glass over in the front and glass over at the back. The S5.5 is also ranked as the slimmest phone in the world thanks to its 5.5mm thickness. So that definitely puts it in the impressive league. However, if you look at the overall styling of these devices, it seems that there is a more tasteful approach to the Gionee S5.5, whereas the Micromax Canvas Night seems to have a good premium look, but it does not seem to be tastefully done. The Micromax Canvas Night is a phone that Micromax has made available in India. What Micromax does is buys a device ID from OEM vendors and then brands it with their name and makes it available in the Indian market, whereas for Gionee, what happens is the fact that the handset is custom designed for the company, and hence you will see that the device is a unique design. Since they've stopped manufacturing for other brands, you will not find this sort of design in any other market with any other name. So that way you are sort of an exclusive brand design, which sort of helps. The S5.5 also has a nice rounded glass in the front, so it sort of tapers at the edges, which makes it look nice, gives it an additional premium look. Bezel has been tapered off at the edges to give it that little shine, and at the back it has been curved a little bit to give it that comfortable feel because it is an exceptionally slim phone, and if they left it sharp, it would actually hurt the hands. Canvas Night, the bezels have not been rounded off. In fact, you have a very square bezel that goes around. You do have some beveling that happens over here, but it does not add to the design, or it does not add to the shiny factor. It does not basically change in color either, so it's not been polished as it has been on the S5.5. So that is something. Essentially, mostly both of these designs have the same overall aesthetic, same overall look and feel. The only sort of difference is the thinness of the S5.5 and the way the camera bezel has been placed on both these devices. So that is something that you can look into. Now, what also constitutes design for us is the fact that Gionee uses a very custom operating system. It's called the Amigo user interface, and it is laid on top of Android. Now, both of these devices are running Android, which is 4.2.2. So that is a disappointment on both levels, because we would have liked to see KitKat out of these devices, but no particular reason why companies are not doing that. So both of these devices running Android 4.2.2 Jelly Bean, as you can see over here. It sort of is disappointing for us, if you ask us. So overall, the S5.5 sort of wins in terms of design, and build quality on both these phones seems equally good. Gionee claims to have used Gorilla Glass, and so does Micromax. What versions of Gorilla Glass is currently unknown, but both of these devices are very tough and can withstand lots of drops, despite the fact that they are mostly glass devices. Micromax does ship with a cover inside the box. We don't know if the S5.5 does. Usually Gionee phones do ship with a cover inside the box. We don't know if this does, because the final retail box is not out yet. If we talk about the hardware on the inside of these devices, both of them are running the MediaTek 6592 octa-core chipset, which is one of the first chipsets to have a true octa-core CPU on the inside. There is a slight difference, however. The Micromax Canvas Night runs the 6592T, which also stands for Turbo, which runs at octa-core 2 GHz, and it has a Mali MP4 450 GPU. So it does have the added advantage of being a higher spec device in terms of the chipset. But what that also does is it starts to heat up the phone over here, and it seems that the chipset is not being managed properly. So you get a lot of heating over here at the front and over here at the back, where the logo of the device is sort of disappointing in terms of the way the device has been been placed out. The Gionee S5.5 features a MediaTek 6592 chipset, which is running at 1.7 GHz on Octa core. So it's not the turbo chipset, and it seems to be a lot more stable. It does not heat up the device at all, and this is a pre-production model, so it's doing really well. What we have for the Canvas Night is a final retail version. So the retail version has heating up issues, and if your device heats up a lot, the company is offering replacements for that. On the battery front, we have a 2350 milliamp hour battery on the Canvas Night, and we have a 2300 milliamp hour battery on the Gionee S5.5. And what that translates into the fact is that despite being a smaller battery by about 50 milliamp hours, we saw that the S5.5 has better battery life, has better battery management, and has a bunch of software in there that lets you sort of save battery as well. So in terms of that, we're pretty happy with the fact that you can get a better battery life on a phone which is slimmer and has a smaller battery. So good battery management, and the fact that it has a smaller CPU as well may help, because versus a 2 GHz, you have a 1.7 GHz, and this one performs better, is better managed. There's no heat dissipation to the point where you can't comfortably hold the device, and there is no battery drain, whereas when this device, the Micromax, starts to heat up, there is a considerable amount of battery drain. In terms of performance, both these devices mostly rank good. Now what I'm going to do now is ensure that nothing is running in the background and for both these devices, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to initiate a Antutu to do a comparative sort of benchmark between these two devices. So whereas there has been a score of 26029 on this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a test both of these guys together. While the results are in, you can see that there is quite a considerable amount of difference in terms of the overall spec result over here. You do have a 30,000 score over here and a 27,000 approximate score on the right. So there is a considerable amount of difference in terms of the benchmark scores, and that's purely because of the faster CPU on this. The only ranking that differs is the ranking difference between the CPU. So that is something that you might want to consider if you are considering either of these devices. Now, in terms of gaming, both these devices worked out great. Micromax Canvas Night plays most of these games properly. Some of these games don't even start up. That's probably due to incompatibility with the chipset. So for example, GT Racing 2 does not run on the Canvas Night, and it sort of quits halfway into loading up, and that is something that you might want to look into. But most of the other games run, and GT Racing also sort of runs from time to time, but it's not the most stable. Most of the games that we ran on the S5.5 ran beautifully. They work really well, and the device is sort of designed to handle all sorts of gaming. Again, while I'm looking at these devices, Canvas Night has completely heated up from over here, and it's slightly difficult to control, whereas this guy is cool and comfortable to hold. It does heat up a little bit. It's slightly warm from here, but it's comfortable. So in terms of performance, both of these devices rank mostly the same in day-to-day usage. We really appreciate the UI on Gionee S5.5, so definitely a tad bit of improvement over there in terms of performance. This is more well balanced, you get better battery life, and this OS is more stable. Supports mostly all applications, so we didn't see any crashes or hangs whatsoever. On the Canvas Night, we did notice some hangs and some crashes, especially when we are downloading some games and playing them. So definitely a bit of difference over there. Now, if we talk about the displays on these two devices, both of them are running a 1920 by 1080p display. If we talk about the Gionee S5.5, it does have a 5-inch 1920 by 1080p display with a 441 pixel per inch pixel density, and the same goes for the Micromax Canvas Night. Both of them basically essentially have the same sort of display. It definitely seems a bit flatter on the S5.5, and we have the brightness turned all the way up. So because of the wallpaper on this guy, it seems that the brightness on this is slightly better on the Canvas Night, but both of them have equally good brightness and equally good outdoor visibility, so no complaints. Let's talk about the camera and its performance. Both of these devices use high resolution camera, whereas the Micromax Canvas Night has a 16 megapixel camera at the back. Gionee S5.5 has a 13 megapixel camera on the back. The overall quality of images from the Micromax Canvas Night are not that great. In fact, the Canvas Night has washed out images when clicked outdoors. In good light conditions, we have really washed out images. In low light conditions, images are really terrible. So in terms of the camera sensor, a big disappointment on the Canvas Night, and we've seen better cameras from Micromax in the past, where we saw the Canvas Turbo, we saw the Canvas Doodle. They had great cameras. This guy over here does not have a good camera. The 16 megapixel camera is just hokum is what it is. It does not give a good quality pictures. Over at the front on the Micromax Canvas Night is a larger megapixel camera, which also does not translate into good quality images. We have an 8 megapixel camera, so that also does not translate into good quality images, and we didn't see any good results from that. On the Gionee S5.5, again, the front camera is good. We have a 5 megapixel camera that does excellently well in low light conditions as well as in regular conditions. It has a wide angle lens, so you get good pictures from that overall. Now, in terms of phone call capability, the Micromax Canvas Night is a dual SIM device, so you do have 2 SIM cards that go in there, and the Gionee S5.5 is a single SIM device, so that is a big difference on both these guys. The Micromax Canvas Night was able to handle networks on both SIM cards easily without any problems, so we don't have complaints in terms of networks. Signals were strong. We did see a bit of network lag, and that could be due to the network operators. On the S5.5, again, we did not see any network issues, and we had full signal. 3G runs brilliantly on both these devices. On the Canvas Night, you can only have 3G on one SIM card, whereas this guy, the S5.5, has only one SIM card, so you can't really complain about that. In conclusion, overall, we feel that the S5.5 is a slightly more refined version of similar looking devices, similar design, similar sort of specs. We feel that the S5.5 is slightly more refined. It has better battery life and better battery management. It does not heat up and has a customized user interface. The camera on this guy is better, so we have better camera modules in there in the front as well as the back. Overall performance is great, and apps designed to work around the system are also brilliant. So if you look at some of the applications that are here on this guy, including the camera app and the clear camera app, the charm camera app, all these applications make for good photography. The audio quality on the S5.5 is also definitely better than that on the Canvas Night. So we saw better sound coming out of the 3.5mm headphone jack, especially when connected to headphones. So it feels that even though specs are better on the Micromax Canvas Night in terms of the chipset, we feel there's a better use of hardware on the S5.5, especially considering that we get better battery and better management of the operating system. And Gionee also claims that there will be a service update, and so does Micromax, and we don't know if either of them are going to be updating to KitKat, and most probably I don't see a update to KitKat coming soon unless somebody roots this guy and gives us an update. So if you are in the market for a device around 20,000 rupees and you're considering an octa-core device, the Gionee S5.5 seems to be our preference, even though the Micromax Canvas Night is a great device. So if you don't want to spend the extra 2,000 to 3,000 bucks, then you can get the Micromax Canvas Night. But if you're willing, then you get a slightly more refined phone that is also going to give you the ability to say that you have the slimmest phone in the world in your pocket. So it gives you that added sort of clout when you're showing off your phone. It's really slim. It does not look like it is an Indian manufactured phone, because it isn't. It is from a company that's only a year old, but they're making global trends. The E7 was a great phone, whereas this is a phone that has been bought from a Chinese OEM that has been converted into an Indian phone. Gionee used to make phones for Micromax in the past. I mean, it's just a complete comparison of what and how you perceive these to be. But if it was my personal choice, I would pick the Gionee, spending in an extra 2,000 bucks to get a more refined, more stable UI, more nicer looking, slightly sleeker looking phone, which does not heat up and does not drain battery. And it is also the slimmest phone in the world, so that gives me that added advantage. If I'm looking for dual SIM capabilities, then this is the only option that I get out of the two, because this guy has dual SIM capabilities, so that definitely gives it an improvement. In-box accessories on the Canvas Night are good as well, so we are happy with that. We don't know what the accessories on the Gionee are going to be, so until we do an unboxing, we won't know. But there you go, guys. This was our comparison between the Canvas Night and the Gionee S5.5. If you have any questions or queries, do drop them in the comment section below. Read the full comparison on iGyaan.in. Catch us on Facebook, Twitter, Google+. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/iGyaan, youtube.com/iGyaan TV for iGyaan Networks. This is Thank you guys for watching.